Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to do my next installment in the What's Next series, covering every single NHL team and looking at them, where they are right now as an organization and what's next for their future. So today I want to look at the Vancouver Canucks. So we've looked at three teams already. We've looked at the New York Islanders most recently. We've looked at the Montreal Canadiens and the Utah Mammoth. But today I want to talk about the Vancouver Canucks, and I think they're a very interesting team to talk about because of the absolute tire fire season they've had. They've had this past season. It's been nothing short of remarkably horrible, and I really feel for every Canucks fan out there because. Every single aspect of how their season could have gone went poorly. After having such a remarkable season, the season before, winning the Pacific Division, I think people did expect regression, but this much is it's quite surprising. But without further ado, let's just get right into it. So, looking at their record this season, they were 38, 30, and 14. They just missed it, right? They had 90 points, so they just missed it. It wasn't like they were just truly awful, but they suffered enough, both on the ice with Demko's injury plaguing him for pretty much the whole season. Even when he did come back, he was not up to, the Demko performance that we know. And then Quinn Hughes, dealing with a nagging injury all season that he had to sometimes, come out for. And then all the off-ice stuff. The off-ice stuff is the main brunt of why the Canucks really suffered this season. Their best two forwards, they couldn't. They had issues with each other they could not solve, and it's really, really unfortunate. But it's been said before, it's been talked about, and now they have to move on. They've got to find a way to somehow right this ship. Last season was so much better. They had 109 points that was comprised of 50 wins, 23 losses, and nine overtime or shootout points. So yeah, it just a real regressive season, and it's not great because the Canucks have gone through this kind of before in their history, right? As a team, they've had great seasons, and then they can't be consistent with it. They can't follow it up with something that is be really proud of. Looking at their GM and coach situation, their GM is Patrick Allvin, who I really respect and like as a GM. It's really weird though, him and Jim Rutherford and as the president of Hockey Ops there, they've both, especially Jim, but they've both had some not so great sound bites, right? At the end of season media, even during the season when they're talking about all the things that were going down. It's almost like, Patrick Allvin makes the comment about Besser and how he couldn't, he tried to see what the trade market was on him, but no one wanted him. And then Rutherford makes lots of comments about, Quinn Hughes and how he's worried about Quinn Hughes staying. It's just, it's not great. So I think for next season, those two, especially Jim, I'd say would try and, it would help to try and shore up those comments and make sure that you can help not just the rest of the NHL, but the fans here in Vancouver feel better about that the guys leading the charge are not so worried about things going on and not so unsure. Their coach, they lost Rick Tocchet. In my opinion, that's probably a good thing. I know that's not maybe the most popular sentiment right now in Canucks land, but I personally am not very encouraged that Rick Tocchet, as the leader, he's supposed to be your leader in the locker room. I know that you have a captain for that as well, but I would have liked to see Rick Tocchet maybe try and smooth things out. I know he tried, I get it, but smooth things out between JT Miller and Elias Pettersson, because that's part of his job. That's part of his job to get the morale up, and him also leaving kind of is more indicative to me that maybe his heart wasn't fully in it, and you don't want someone who's not 100% in. So they've got their new coach now in Adam Foote. I would have liked to see Manny Malhotra from the AHL come up, but I've also heard from people that he's doing so well in the AHL. Why not just keep him there and bring in they didn't bring him really anybody. He's there. Adam Foote was their assistant coach. So someone who's already there knows the the illnesses that plague this team behind the scenes. I think it's a good move. I like the move a lot. So we'll see how he helps helps the team for next season. Looking at their top six, you've got Höglander, Pettersson, and Garland. Pettersson is now their de facto number one center because of JT Miller being gone. There's no one even close to another caliber center that could be a number one there right now. So Pettersson has to be the guy, and he has to have a way better season next season. This was a really concerning season for him, and I imagine that a lot of that is due to distractions off the ice, and I do believe he was injured. So I have to give him some slack there. But he's got to come back fully healthy, 100% healthy next season. Psychologically, he's got to be ready to go. Because if they have any hope of righting the ship for next season and getting things back and not having to make things worse and maybe tear it down or anything like that, Pettersson's got to be their number one guy on offense. And you got Garland on the right side as well. Garland, you ideally don't want him to be up there, the number one, the first line spot. But Garland, he impresses me a lot. I love his compete level. Second line, DeBrusk, Hedl, and Besser. Besser looks like he's out the door, so I have him here just because that's what Daily Faceoff has their lines. But they're very likely going to be losing Besser, and they're going to have to find a replacement for him. Hedl, you want as your third line center, and you want him healthy, right? Hedl shouldn't be your second line center. Hopefully they can get more out of him than the Rangers were able to get with him. But the number one priority for Hedl is get him healthy, make sure he's good. I wish the best for Hedl. I don't want him. I want him healthy, and I want him successful. Your defense, Quinn Hughes, when fully healthy, is a top two defenseman in the whole league. So that's a obvious strength for them there. Tyler Myers had actually quite a good season. I liked what I saw of Myers this season. So he's a decent part of your top four when playing well. We've seen him play badly, but when playing well, definitely a good top four defenseman. Marcus Pettersson, a fantastic ad. I really like this ad as a shutdown defenseman. They needed that, and if they were going to lose, JT Miller, why not shore up one of your other deficiencies, which is more of a shutdown presence, and now they got that in Marcus Pettersson. So that was a really good ad by Alvin and co. And then Hronek. Hronek had definitely a down season. Would like him to regress positively for next season and bounce back. Your goalies, Lankinen stepped up big time, but he's your backup. Demko, unless you trade him, maybe because of how volatile things were this season, you're hoping that Demko is your number one guy going forward, and that he can be the guy that we've seen him be before, which is when he's Thatcher Demko level, he is a top 10 goal in the league for sure. So that's your kind of your main, you've got your depth that I haven't touched upon, but that's the meat of the team right there on ice. Some stats here. So goals for, you've got 24th. 24th in the league is just not good enough. And, I expect that to definitely rise for next season a bit, but it needs to rise considerably. 24th, I chalk that up to all the drama. You can't have JT Miller and Marcus Pettersson, Elias Pettersson forward. You can't have both your best two forwards not only clashing off ice, but then that bleeds into on the ice, and it showed. So they're going to have to not only fix Elias's game this offseason, but they're going to have to bring in some better players, because That's just not good enough in terms of goals for. Goals against, 18th. That's also not good enough, but it's a little bit better, more, close to average, or at least middle of the pack. I think Hronek having a down year, and then Marcus Patterson not getting there until, kind of late in the season, along with Demko. Lankinen I really like Lankinen. Being a Chicago fan, seeing him, I loved Lankinen in his time here in Chicago. But Lankinen's your backup, so you need Demko to be your goalie. And goals against will definitely shore up if Demko can return to form. Power play percentage. So the special teams for the Canucks was probably the only bright spot, I'd say, in their season. Power play percentage is not that impressive, but 15th, it's definitely serviceable. They're 22.5% of the time they were scoring on the power play, and then on the penalty kill, third best in the entire league. That's very, very impressive. You could say that was Rick Tocchet, but you also could maybe say that it was Adam Foote, who is now their head coach. So that's very encouraging, and probably continues on to next season. But yeah, next I want to look at the identity and what they hope to be what the Vancouver Canucks hope to be for next season. So for the identity of the Vancouver Canucks, what is their identity as an organization currently? Well, I have them squarely in the retoolers, position. I think that they are, it's not really debatable that they're not rebuilding, and they shouldn't be. This team has too many core pieces right now, currently, that are too good to want to tear it all down. It would only get to that if they completely, fail to progress or take any type of steps the next 2 seasons, which I really hope doesn't happen. So yeah, I have them as a retooler. They're a team that's in flux, that needs to bring in more pieces that to help out the core, potentially bring in another core piece, one more core piece that they lost in JT and Miller. They now have to find that replacement for. But yeah, so they got Patrick Allvin and Jim Rutherford have their work cut out for them in terms of the offseason. They're going to have to find a way to retool here on the fly and get better as soon as next season, because you cannot have, you have to progress. Because as Jim Rutherford stated already, you run the risk of Quinn Hughes, if they don't progress here real soon, you run the risk of Quinn Hughes walking out on you. Next season outlook, I have them as a hopeful playoff team. I think that's their goal. What are they going to try and achieve next season? They're going to try and get the playoffs. Make the playoffs and see what you can do from there. As long as you make the playoffs, I'd say that even if you lose in the first round, I'd say it's still, you progressed from, an absolute tire fire season. You progress and you say, okay, that's a done chapter. We're turning the page and we're starting over again. Even if you just lose in the first round, that's okay. Make the playoffs. That's your goal. The keys to success. I have 3 keys to success here. I could have had like 10, because you need a lot to go right to really fix everything. There was so much that went wrong, down to the coaching, down to injuries, down to the culture and the division within the locker room. I can't believe almost how it was perfectly bad. Now, maybe that's a good thing, because it couldn't have gotten worse, and so the only way up the only direction from here is up. So maybe you got all the bad things out of the way. That's the optimist in me. But that's I hope that for the Canucks. I do cheer for the Canucks a little bit. They're like I'd say a top 5 favorite team for me. I really like them, and I really wish them success. I really do. They've never won a cup before. I'd love to see them win a cup. For a lot of my friends who are Canucks fans, and for the hockey guy, oh my God, he deserves that more than anyone. So yeah, that'd be really cool. But they have to start here. So my first key to success, it's a big one. It's not easy. Somehow find an elite second line center. You have to fill that hole that JT Miller's departure leaves. Look, JT Miller, by all of what I hear, he's a jerk. And you need jerks. I get it. Like, and when it comes to pro sports, you need guys who are going to be tough. You need guys who are going to push you. But from what I hear, he's not always, he doesn't put the same standards on himself sometimes, like if he's always pushing other people to be their best, but then is lackadaisical on the back check, like that's not great. That's not great looks. So maybe by losing JT Miller, if you can find a replacement that brings a better vibe to everything and isn't so, is very determined and very passionate, but doesn't bring that weird toxicity that I feel like JT Miller brought, that could be that would do wonders for this team. So, whether that's free agency or trade, I don't know. If free agency, you've got Sam Bennett there. You've got Matt Duchene. We'll see if he leaves leaves Dallas there. There's some other centers, Brock Nelson. But, they're all people that you probably have to overpay for. So maybe they don't go the free agency route. Maybe they have to go through trade. I don't know. Maybe they look for something, an RFA that they can offer sheet. It would be a young, gamble, but, we'll see. But Patrick Alvini's a good GM. I do trust him, but he's got his work cut out for him, as I've said. Number 2, this is the most important in my opinion, and not too controversial. Fix the culture in the locker room. And with that, piggybacking off that point, fix Pettersson's psychology. What's going on in Pettersson's mind? So you've gotta bring stability back. From what I've heard, the locker room was split. Half of them were siding with JT Miller, half of them were siding with Elias Pettersson. It was the antithesis of what a locker room should be. It's supposed to be a camaraderie, a complete buy-in and brotherhood. And it sounds like the absolute opposite happened this season. So Adam Foote, he's got to come in, and he knows what happened, because he was an assistant coach there. So he knows the situation. So he'll probably have a better grasp on how to address it, being now the main mouthpiece for, the leadership there. So Adam Foote's got some work to do, and he's got to make sure that everyone buys in and they become a brotherhood again in that locker room. And then number 3, find a replacement for Brock Boeser, because I do think he's leaving. That's not easy. He's a great goal scorer, but he's also someone that isn't always consistent, and he's sometimes injured. So if you can find someone who isn't that, someone who's more consistent, maybe not as good of a goal scorer, but someone who you can rely on a little bit more than Brock Boeser. I really do like Brock Boeser. I wish him the best, but this could be a positive as well. Find someone who you can just rely on just a little bit more. But yeah, that's my assessment of the Vancouver Canucks. They may be the team that is going to be the busiest this offseason. They've got so much to do, not just on ice, but off ice stuff as well. They've got the stuff there. They have the ingredients to right the ship. I really believe that. I think that if they do everything right, I could absolutely see them making playoffs next season and getting the vibes back in Vancouver. But yeah, we'll have to see. Thank you so much for watching. I really look forward to doing to continue this series. I've got so many more videos planned in which teams I want to evaluate. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.